Good, good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning, Friday. I thought it was Saturday today, so I'm running half an hour late. I timed it for 9 o'clock rather than 8:30 because thought it was Saturday. This is the issue when your missus is off on a Friday and a Saturday for work wise. But anyway, we're a little bit later this morning. Thank you all for waiting around. There's lots of Celtic news to get around this morning. The big breaking news this morning is that Arne Engels. We know that Arne Engels has been linked with Nottingham Forest and a couple of teams down in England. He was also linked with AC Milan, Roma. He's now on the radar of Napoli. Napoli are evaluating Celtic's Arne Engels, the 2003 born Belgian midfielder, can cover multiple roles. He can play as a central midfielder. He can play on the flanks in midfield. Napoli appreciates him precisely for his versatility and are also interested in him are Fulham, Sunderland, Nottingham Forest. So there is more teams. Looks like it could be a bit of a bidding war for Arne Engels this summer. The Belgian central midfielder from Celtic is one of the options identified by Napoli, and they have a player leaving potentially to go to Benfica, moving for around about 25 million. It will cost them at least 25 million to get Arne Engels. I would say that 25 million is going to be the bare minimum that Celtic will sell Arne Engels for in this transfer window. It looks like that he will be gone. I think that we all know that, especially after that big offer coming in for Arne Engels in the last transfer window. And in other Celtic news, there's been a lot of you have been speaking about Jordan Larsson from Copenhagen. It looks like he is heading over to Saudi, Dubai, wherever, in the region of $1.5 million or £1 million, $1 million. Don't know why it's in dollars. Dodgy countries, but anyway, I think Arne Engels breaks our transfer record. I think so. I think that Arne Engels will be sold for a deal of 30 million plus quite easily. Right, let's get on to some more Celtic news this morning because there is one ex-Celtic player that I want to show you that is doing a little bit of extra training. Now, has to be said, is he doing this extra training to get into Martin O'Neill's good books? Because he's a player that Martin O'Neill said wouldn't play under him. He was nowhere near the team. In fact, he was that far out the team, Mikael Ange Balikwisha, that it had people asking why the hell did we buy him. But when you look at his Instagram, he's doing extra training. When a lot of the footballers are on holiday, top level footballer on holiday, nope, he's getting it down, and a couple of camera guys. There's two ways to look at this. This could be him putting himself out in the market. Because he knows that Celtic might just go, do you know what, find yourself another club. So maybe this is his team putting him in the market for a move away from Celtic. It did cost Celtic £5 million. Celtic chased after Michelangelo Balikwisha for a couple of seasons. It hasn't worked out for him for one reason or another, and he seems to have the footwork in that, but it's we'll wait and see. So we'll wait and see. Glasgow Janine said I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to be controversial. Callum will leave this window. He already says that the club needs to match his ambitions. Talking about Callum McGregor and not Callum Osmond. Would it be such a big deal if Callum McGregor left? I mean, I know everything that he brings to Celtic. I don't think he will. I mean, I think that Martin O'Neill. I think, Ian, I think that when you look at Martin O'Neill coming back to Celtic, or staying on, sorry, at Celtic as the manager, that kind of makes up Callum McGregor's mind that he's not going anywhere, if you ask me. Because for to be able to play a full season under the legendary manager Martin O'Neill will be right up there with Callum McGregor's ultimate wishes. Do you know, he grew up at a time where Martin O'Neill was you know, an icon. Callum come through the system years later, joining Celtic, having seen all Martin O'Neill's teams and everything when he was a young lad. I think that would give him all the motivation that he needs to stay at Celtic. So I think that Callum McGregor will stay on at Celtic this coming summer. Anyway, let's get on to the elephant in the room. And that elephant in the room is the Celtic hierarchy. Yes, they have finally spoken. Our esteemed stand-in, it's like a stand-in comedy show, isn't it? Brian Wilson took to Celtic TV last night, and he spoke about quite a few things. He spoke about the nonsense with the press. Some press have come out and said, but Mr. Wilson, you've already said that you apologised for the actions of the Celtic fans, etc., etc., etc. He didn't so much stick up for the fans. He did say that we need unity at the club. He says, I think every supporter and hearts are hearts. I'm really pleased that Martin is going to continue. He went on to say, the outcome is what we wanted. It's the outcome that we've got. Now we just want to build on the success of last year and just give inspiration and the leadership that Martin gave us. Never talked about Sean Maloney and Fozzie. Hopefully we will get those questions answered tonight. We know that Martin O'Neill is in Kirkcaldy, and I've primed my father and my brothers with the questions, and even phone in hand if it takes that. Don't know. Give me him on the phone. I want Martin on the phone, and if we can get that live, that would be fantastic. The esteemed Brian Wilson went on to say that we want to continue the journey. Is absolutely delighted, taking into account the success that Martin had at the club last year and in the past, and what it means to all the supporters. His achievements, did it exceed the expectations? We all lived through a roller coaster of the last few months of the season. The last few months of the season. Excuse me, Mr. Wilson, you excluded 250 fans for the majority of a season. But he went on to talk about ultimately wanting unity. Brian says the fans are very keen to see the squad improve. He was asked by Jerry, and to see the squad develop in what is going to be a crucial season. Are you prepared to give Martin the backing that he needs? And he said, well, obviously, that's very much part of the basis of which he actually wanted to come back. He wants to come back. It's going to be a very active few weeks, he said, mentioning all the criticism of last year, all the criticism of the players. He then went on to say that there are 8 Celtic players at the World Cup, so give the squad a break. I don't think that the players that are at the World Cup, and the big news for Yang, Yang was devastated last night. Yang did not make the first game of the World Cup. He was left on the bench. Yang, he didn't get off the bench. There was quite a few substitutions in the game. There was 1, 2, 3. There was 5 substitutions for South Korea in the game. South Korea, they play a 4-3-4 system. That's maybe the reason Yang didn't get it. I don't know. But Yang never made the team. He was on the bench. There was 5 substitutes, and Yang didn't get on. Ultimately, South Korea went on to win 2-1. So there we go for the first Celtic player that is at the World Cup. His team is on a bit of a roll. And if you watched the opening game to the World Cup last night, I feel your pain. because it was terrible. And anyway, we'll talk about that later. And getting back to what our esteemed, yes, Celtic fans still talk about it. It means a lot in the long run. The SPFL sanctions. He spoke about the SPFL sanctions. Now, Celtic have been hit with a £10,000 fine. They have been hit with potential reduction in fans to certain games, but it's been postponed until next year. But anyway, the fans did get a £10,000 fine for everything that went out. Brian Wilson wasn't too happy about it. It says, especially the stuff that went on with what the police said. It was a conscious decision in the immediate aftermath of the season and the Hearts game in particular, not to join in the exchange of words with anyone. I'm going to have to listen to him actually saying this, because it's unbelievable, because they don't speak to fans on a regular basis. So coming out saying we made a conscious decision.
Anything to add to that?
Well, we took a conscious decision in the immediate aftermath of the season, and the Hearts game in particular, of not to join in exchanges of words with anyone. We were celebrating winning a double, and we were not going to get bogged down in what actually was an absurd series of debates about issues which didn't really exist. And one by one, they've been chopped off. There was nobody attacked. The game did finish. What else was there? The Hearts players were not advised by police to leave the stadium promptly. It was all rubbish, and yet people who should have known better, or people with access to grind who couldn't quite conceal them, made this into a running narrative until it ran out of steam. So we weren't going to get involved in that stupid debate. Anyway, we let all that pass under the bridge, and at the end of the day, what matters is we won a double. We won it in great style, and none of these issues.
We never won it in great style. Come on, mate. This is just going to add fire to the flames, isn't it? We didn't win it in great style. Let's be honest. Hearts completely collapsed. I think that the last 7 Hearts away games, they lost quite a lot of them. We won it by sheer determination. We didn't win the league in great style. There was half of the game, we turned up at the second half for a lot of game. Honestly.
That were turned into great mountains of controversy by artificial controversy, held any water whatsoever. And of course, if anything had or did come to light, then we'd deal with it just as we have done in the past.
Yeah, you would ban the fans. That's why you've put them all together in the standing section next year, to make it easier for you to ban the fans altogether.
So how important is it for you that the good name and the good reputation of Celtic supporters remains, and that their integrity on the whole isn't questioned?
Well, I just think that what it brought to the surface were attitudes that you'd prefer didn't exist, and where the opportunity was taken, partly out of deep-seated resentment of Celtic's success, and partly just out of sheer ignorance and opportunism, to run these stories for not just for days but for weeks. And then, as I say, it all proved to be froth, and what was there at the end of the day was that Celtic won the league, Celtic won the cup, because Celtic deserved to win both of them on the field of play without any of these noises off.
The Chief Constable at Police Scotland has also criticised the club and Scottish football in a whole for what she says is a failure to control fan behaviour. Is that something you'd like to respond to?
Well, again, I'm disappointed by these kind of generalisations from the Chief Constable. If you boil it down to the specifics of what the Celtic do and the relationship we have at an operational level with the police, it's very good. They recognise that, and we will continue to do that. But maybe the Chief Constable should maybe look at her own organisation's response at a senior level. And if you go back to what happened at Ibrox, for example, the mechanism which we have respected and supported through the Safety Advisory Group was not adhered to in these circumstances. And that leaves a bit of a vacuum going forward, and I think it's one that has to be addressed. But so everyone should look at their own house before they're too critical of others.
This is very true. And has Brian Wilson done enough? Brian Wilson then goes on to say that he wants unity at the club. Can we now get some kind of unity? Obviously, you've got organisations like the Celtic Fans Collective who are going to take stock over the summer, and they say that they're not going back into full demonstration mode. They're going to try and attack the board another way. Can Celtic move on from the disruption of last season? And ultimately, can Celtic fans be completely united? I suppose that's really up to the board, isn't it? It's up to the way that they conduct themselves over the summer. It depends on how quick they back the manager and get players in. But if it is true that Martin O'Neill will not have Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham at the club due to the fact that the club want them to take 50% cut in wages, you've got to be thinking to yourself, this is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Let's hear what he says about the fans. And he did say that the uptake in season tickets, was what they expected at the club.
So we are going to have a full stadium, and so I go back to my old theme, which is it should also be a united stadium. And time and time again, I have said, other colleagues have said, that mistakes were made last season, that the board made mistakes, individuals made mistakes. All of that has admitted, but everyone has to look at themselves about their role in the earlier parts of last season. And the lesson is that division doesn't work. The division is bad for the team, it's bad for the club, and ultimately it's bad for success and what we all want to share in. So, let's not have repetitions of that. Nobody's ever going to be united in praise of board or manager, probably, or anyone else. But let these divisions take place outside of the stadium, and let's have a unity that undoubtedly helped the team over the line in the end last season.
If there's ever a way for an organisation to say it wasn't our fault, don't blame us. You need to look at yourself and the way that you acted throughout the campaign. Wow. I mean, he did kind of take maybe 1% of blame, but he kind of switched it around really quick. It's like any politician would do, wasn't it? Anyway, that's can it bring the fans together? That is the big question this morning. Tell me in the comments, do you think that we can unite as a fan base behind the board? The board aren't going anywhere. The campaigns, they're not another penny campaign. Should that restart before the season starts? Should we wait until... There's all these questions. The board want us to be united and going forward. And yes, I am going to Portugal to see Celtic during the summer. And I'm completely honest, I'm buzzing for it. I can't wait. I love to go to pre-seasons when I stayed in Scotland. Love a wee away trip. It's fantastic. But a lot of this and a lot of the things that went on at the club come back to one thing. And that one thing is the board. We can go back to the beginning of last season, and this was the very first interview at the start of the season. This was the starting point. This was on the 1st of August 2025, and this was the interview with Brendan Rodgers. And this was the starting point of the division within the club.
Update, no, and for the sake of honesty and clarity, I can tell you exactly where we're at. So I said when I came here first that I'd do 3 years minimum, and people had me out the door at the end of last season or going various places. I said then, and like I'll say now, that there's nowhere to go, and where it sits with myself and everything else. And I said I'm very happy here. There's conditions we want in to be able to improve and be better, because I'm not the type of manager that's good maintaining anything. If it's just something to maintain, I'm not the manager of Celtic. It'll be someone else. But to build and grow and develop and push, then of course I love being at Celtic. So
that was Brendan Rodgers on the 1st of August last year. Brian Wilson seems to have forgotten that this was the starting gun of the negativity at Celtic. This was the starting point that took over every single press conference on every single Friday in the lead up to a league match game at the weekend. The conversation and the narrative was all about the lack of players coming in. Do you know, the Brendan Rodgers question, would he be here long term? That narrative didn't go away at all. The board were on a collision with the manager and the fans right from the start. How are we supposed to believe Brian Wilson when he comes out and he says, yeah, we're really looking to we're really looking forward to moving forward, putting all this trouble and strife and negativity behind us and being all united, when it's the same people that caused all this last summer and the summer before and the summer before. And when you've got someone, an elite manager like Brendan Rodgers saying, if you're just looking for a caretaker, and what do we have? Martin O'Neill's just a short-term kid. 1 season, 2 seasons. It is not. It will take us over. Don't know. You could talk about the 1 or 2 seasons that Ronnie Dyler was at the club. You could look at it as an exact similar situation, which is sad, because Ronnie Dyler was never going to be here for, 4 or 5 seasons. Martin O'Neill's not going to be here for 4 or 5 seasons. It's over to you, Mr. Celtic Board. That's one thing for sure. Season ticket waiting list. Due to unprecedented demand, the season ticket waiting list is currently closed for new applications. Please see the frequently asked questions to help resolve any queries. The season ticket waiting list will be closed because Celtic are having to move couple of hundred fans from the standing section that are currently in the standing section. They're going to have to move them to other parts of the stadium to facilitate moving the boys' ultras from the corner that they sit in next to the main stand into the standing section. Hence the reason that if any seats do become available, it's because not everyone is going to want to go in that corner. All the people that are in the standing section, they're not wanting to go and sit in that corner of the quiet end of the stadium. They would rather a seat round about the standing section, I would suggest, just so they could sit down on a nice plastic seat. Anyway, Super Chat has come in this morning from Canada. Pace of pen, thank you for that. Unity, sell the best players, ban fans, bring bad players, no communication, pay cuts for success, hoard the money, bring in a politician to get the fans in line. I cannot disagree with any of that, mate. It's and once again, we're going to go into the summer of selling our best players. We know that Arnie Engels is going to be sold. I mean, let's not beat about the bush. Whilst I think that the biggest and the most hurtful thing from a Celtic fan's perspective, if there is any ounce of truth to the way that Celtic have treated Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham over the last couple of weeks, I think nothing's changed at the club. Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham came in. They were in before Martin O'Neill got his foot in the door. You know, they turned up at 7 o'clock in the morning after Brendan Rodgers left. Martin O'Neill didn't arrive till later on that day. You know, it was Fozzie and Maloney that turned up at the drop of a hat. And Celtic have taken that for granted. You know, they are taking it for granted. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Right, let's jump into the comments this morning. We have done through everything. Oh, Julian Arocco. I was going to jump onto Instagram, wasn't I? Julian Arocco has caused a little bit of a stir. Let's go on to Lewis Palmer as well. Lewis Palmer has said his goodbyes. We'll give Lewis Palmer his little piece of his final. Today I say goodbye to a club that marked a very special chapter in my life. Since I was a child, I dreamed of playing at stadiums like Celtic Park, experiencing unforgettable European nights, representing an institution as great as Celtic FC. By the grace of God, that dream became a reality. I would like to sincerely thank everyone who made my journey at this club possible. The board, the coaches, the teammates, the technical staff, and every person who works behind the scenes. Thank you for your trust and support, and for helping me grow both as a player and as a person. I leave with unforgettable memories and friendships that I will cherish for the rest of my life. To the fans, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. From day one, I felt your love and unwavering support. I will always be one of you. And that is Lewis Palmer, who has he has left Celtic, as we all know, and yeah, I just wish he was just a little bit better and managed to stay at Celtic. Now, Tony Ralston is at the World Cup. There's Tony Ralston coming off the plane. Getting a little selfie from the Scotland national team, putting that up. So good luck to Tony, and he's another player that may leave Celtic this summer. If he does well at the World Cup, he can go and double, triple his wages down south. Right, let's get on to Julian Arocco, because we all know that Julian Arocco is completely Celtic mad. He isn't at the World Cup, sadly. I think it was due to the injury sustained at Celtic, showing his young lad. And wait, what is this? Arocco 22 on a Celtic shirt. What's going on? Is this a little bit of a come and get me Celtic? It's or was it just one of his mates in his signed shirt? Yeah, it was just one of his mates in a signed Celtic shirt. Still has a love for the club. If Celtic sell Alistair Johnston, because Alistair Johnston excels at the World Cup, like he did the World Cup 4 years ago. He excelled at the World Cup, and he was in the radar of Celtic before then, but he ultimately got his move to Celtic during the World Cup. Could the same happen again for Alistair Johnston? And would Julian Arocco be of course he would. There is no disputing it. Just if Alistair Johnston's to be sold, get Arocco in. Ultimately, get him in instantly. In other Celtic news, Junior Adamu has got a new club. He was sold for, I think it was £800,000, which is peanuts. And Junior Adamu, who yeah, had a brief spell at Celtic. Let's see what Bruni is saying to it. Bruni back, where is he? That's not the Kingdom of Fife, that. Definitely not the Kingdom of Fife, that. Not a coastline like that, anyway. Wherever he is. I think he's still in and what other Celtic players do we have? I think that's it just now, isn't it? Oh, Tom Rodgick. What's Tam saying to it? Oh, Tom Rodgick reposting Martin O'Neill stuff. Tam Rodgick, he's a player that just he just loves Celtic still, doesn't he? You see the picture of Tam Rogic when we won the league. He's jumping about in his house. He still loves us, and that's what I love to see. Jump through this. Joe Hart, what's he up to? Who knows? And then Paulo Bernardo still on the beaches of the Seychelles. And there's an old Celtic player. That is that this morning. That's an update for that. When it comes to everything else, let me just double check. Do you think that we can get unity within the stands? There we go. Let's jump into some of the comments this morning. Season ticket waiting list. Please Scotland the Dicks. Just that. St. Martin coming in for another year. Rebel music to my ears. Just a geriatric lost his pills. Talking about our esteemed stand-in chairman. If Martin would walk right now, he's doing it before Christmas. Bring it down. Yes, man. We'll see if the board have changed in the summer window. Yes, we do. How can you believe a politician? It's hard. So Wilson falls into that. He's an ex-politician. Yes, he is that. I wouldn't be moving from that corner. I wouldn't be moving from that corner. I wouldn't be moving from the standing section either. It's a very interesting scenario, and I wonder how it's played out over the last few weeks. Who was the last manager that stayed 4 or 5 seasons? We've not had a manager that's... Neil Lennon stayed 4 seasons. Neil Lennon. There you go, Del Boy, Neil Lennon. And you've got to say that Neil Lennon got the ball rolling with the whole 9 in a row. And we've kind of missed that stability. Brendan Rodgers was meant to give us that stability, but he never. I mean, even a manager staying 3 seasons, you can build something in 3 seasons. You know, you can build a legacy. You could start getting a youth system that will churn out players. When you take over the manager's job of a club, and especially a club like Celtic, you have the opportunity to leave more than just winners' medals and trophies in the cabinet. You have the opportunity to build a legacy that will be to the betterment and the fruition of the next in line after you. You've got the opportunity to convince young players to come into the club, that they have a future at the club, that they will get the training that they require through the academy, that they can have the pathway at the club to get into the first team. You might not see that come to fruition, but it is your duty of care as a manager to help the next generation, to keep the club moving forward. And that's where we seem to have lacked over the last 4 years. I know that it's all important and it's all, we want to win trebles, and ever since Brendan Rodgers came in, that has been the agenda. We want to keep winning trebles. It was never a thing before Brendan Rodgers came in. It was never, let's win the treble. It was just win the league. Win the league and try and do well in Europe. The parameters of the ambitions of the average Celtic fan now are that high through the roof. It is not sustainable. Yes, we could have won a treble last year. If Martin O'Neill was at the club for the full season, we would have won the treble. But realistically, with the resurgence of Hearts, who had a fantastic season, Rangers look like they're going to be going through another new manager, which will mean more money coming in, and they'll want to back him, and etc. etc. You cannot keep on staying at the top forever. There will come a moment. It happens with all big clubs. It's happened with all big clubs. When you look at the way that the great Juventus team were all conquering back in the 1990s. Look at the way that Man United were, it was called the Sir Alex Ferguson League because they were that dominant at the time, doing well in Europe and everything. Every big team falls away. Be interesting to see what happens with Man City now that they've lost their manager. Not another penny isn't relevant now, Baz. That ship has sailed. like the SS Shield Hall heading down the Clyde. Yes, we're champions again. Bring in Bernard Ponsonby, what, just to bring in what, take one Pillock out and bring in another Pillock. Morning, Celtic fans. Wait and see how quiet the Celtic end will be without the boys in there. Gav, it was like that beforehand. You know, it was like that when the boys ultras, when they were previously known as the SMV, when they were in beside the Green Brigade before, it was dead round that end. So anyway, here we go for 6 in a row. Don't forget the last manager only lasted 33 days. Yeah. Let's not forget about that one. Stephen Welsh done a lovely post giving himself the thanks. Yes, he did, and I apologise that I didn't get to that one the other day. He mentioned a lot about the club, and I put it on my I put it on the Facebook page. Yeah, I put it on the Facebook page, the Stephen Welsh story, and I put it on as a reel, and it was a very fitting tribute to the fact that he lived the dream. You know, it was great to see him videos of himself as a young kid, and this is, do you know what, Stevie Welsh got a lot of stick at Celtic, and I fully respect him for wanting to move on and just play football. He gave his entire life, and this is what, do you know, it's what really, as supporters, we have a right to criticise players for their performances, but when it goes down the level of abuse that some of the homegrown talent get at the club, you forget that their family, that they have went through this from a very young age. And it was great to see Stephen put out the video of him as a young kid at the Celtic, coming through Celtic as a young kid and living his dream. We need to lay off some of the younger ones coming through the academy and stuff. Do you know, Colby Donovan, Dane Murray, they may not be world class right now, but you've got to give them time. Do you know? And I think that when you see that video from Stephen Welsh, it was so touching. Let me see if I could find that again. I did put it on there it's there. I did put it on the Facebook page, and this was, and that's all. It's all he's ever wanted to do, and he's never changed, has he? The young man, he still looks the same just now, doesn't he? Don't know. If we want the youth to stay at the club, if we want them to succeed at the club, the fact that he did put in it, I'd like to thank every staff member, and finally, he puts here, I'd like to thank the fans. You follow the team everywhere you go. Support us thick and thin. Special mention to the Green Brigade and the boys. There we go. Which is fantastic that he did do that. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant from young Stephen Welsh. And it was equally as emotional, the one from Lewis Palmer. Right, I think that's about us covered everything this morning. There is speculation about players. We spoke about that at the beginning of the video. And there's the negative connotation come from, you would expect. Brian Wilson aims a thinly veiled dig at the Celtic collective amid season ticket sales. Doesn't matter, does it? Whatever Celtic come out and say, the media, now this has come from the Herald Group, which owns certain Celtic fan sites and Rangers fan sites, they'll always have that negative connotation to it. But anyway, it is what it is. Thank you for being with me this morning. I'm going to jump into some comments before we leave. I see we're getting linked with Angus Gunn on a free. I could see Celtic doing that one because we do need a third choice keeper. and it would be an easy option. Drinking drugs is the only way to get you through all this. Not at this time of the morning, Peter. I would suggest that you maybe partake of it a bit later in the day. So you're going to say, I'm sorry to see Welsh go. Might have not had the best first pick for big games, but he proved himself in the SPFL and was young enough to improve and become a better player. I think when you've been at Celtic as long as Stephen Welsh has, and he is still a young lad in football terms, but I hope he does go on and have a fantastic career. You know, he could stay at Celtic, and you look at the likes of Tony Ralston. You know, Tony Ralston's a good few years older than Stephen Welsh, and I think you'll see Tony Ralston leave this summer. You know, it could be the end of a good number of players that came through the system. But we'll wait and see. How will you get unity when the guy who wants unity having a dig at fans groups? Well, that's very Celtic. Are you going live in the Celtic channel for the Carroll game with Alistair Johnson? Yes, I will be. What time's it at? I need to tell you the times. But any games including Celtic players, I will be going live on the Celtic channel and not the Baz Does Football channel. Anyway, thank you to everyone this morning. It's been quite a lively stream this morning. Sorry, I was a bit half an hour late. I thought it was a Saturday morning because the missus is lying in bed sleeping because she's been up early all week, and you've got to give her a little bit of peace and quiet. 1-1 Canada, 3-2 the USA. That's tonight's bets. Well, there you go. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.